few. And we pray, cause we know that they might not ever come back. But this is how we ride, this is how we do. Riding mud, sliding up higher in the groove. Don't give a damn about the cash we're spending. With the time we got, we choose to play it on the go, to stay out on the run. We all high, wild, and handsome. Ain't telling you what's right or wrong or what to choose. Hey, but this is how we do. This is how we do.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are here today on a Tuesday. It is 8 on the dot as we started the mouth running. The engine has fired. I really don't know. Is there anything out there to talk about today? Honestly, outside of obviously our guest tonight, Drake Troutman, rolling up into the building. But it should be interesting here tonight. I think we got a guest on who's doing things a little different, and obviously is, in the modified late model world that kind of attunes to the older generation and has some younger guns, but it's a little bit different. I've been hearing, obviously, Jason Fager, we had him on last night. If you ain't tuned in to see that one, go ahead and check it out. Jason had some pretty high things to say about this guy. So I'm interested in learning more about that. I'm sure the sprint car community that tunes into these damn shows all the time, they're interested in learning more about that. And then, of course, these old broke Joe freaking low-class fender'ed guys, y'all definitely want to hear what Drake Troutman has to say, but we don't care about y'all. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Drake Troutman is on the line, and how is it going there, Drake? We got you up there.
Oh, not too bad. How are you?
We're going all right. Now, when I said low-class fendered people, you are from PA, and when I talk to PA sprint car fans all the time, that seems to be the y'all seem to get discriminated against over there. Is this some kind of white-black thing, but in the racing world, what's going on? It's true.
Man, I don't know. We, it's like if you go, I don't know, I guess a little western, a little northern, it's like, I don't know, big block modified country, and then the other part of the state is, sprint car country, and then if you come on down our way, it's like late model country. So we got a little bit of everything going on.
So what part are you actually near? Where would you say? Because a lot of people do get that mixed up. They hear Pennsylvania, they think PA. The PA sprint car scene is technically just a little slither in the middle of the state at the capital. What area are you out of?
So I'm about an hour and a half south from Pittsburgh. Pretty well directly south of Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. So you're on the western side.
Yeah. We're just about into the Maryland line. We're about 5 minutes from it. So.
Well, and you came up running the UMP style modified, if I remember correctly. And I thought I saw you racing at Port Royal when they were trying to bring him in over there, but I'm assuming that middle, central PA racing scene is quite a bit of drive, and then you got that freaking I-70 that charges you an arm and a leg, and it's probably never worth it to go over there near those sprint car people.
Yeah, we go at the Port Royal a fair amount. It's only about 2.5 hours from our shop, so it's not awful. Yeah, they don't have a whole lot of modified racing over there. A lot of big block stuff. I mean, that's pretty big up around that area.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I would assume that has to be a little different. That most areas of the country, it's sprint cars or late models, and your modifieds right below that. But over there, it seems like that there's obviously the war of modifieds, because those big block people, man, they want you to know that you are not racing a modified, Drake. You did not win the Gateway Dirt Nationals in a modified. It's a wannabe late model. Their cars are real modifieds, according to them,
Oh, yeah. There's always those comments on Facebook that that's not a real modified or vice versa. they're all modified. That's I don't know. I think our stuff's a little more like a late model, and I think their stuff's a little more like a boat. It kind of looks like a boat rocking back and forth.
Well, or a sprint car. You know, their chassis are very similar to a sprint car. I raced them. You know, I mean, they're center seating just like a sprint car.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh my! So you won this Gateway Dirt Nationals. Everybody was booing RTJ as he came out, so I guess you were the favorite. Talk about this Gateway whole experience. Of course, you had already won a preliminary night at Gateway. I think that kind of flew under the radar for some people.
Yeah, we won that prelim last year. It was cool, and we put the backup beepers on in the big feature there last year. So, yeah, this year we were able to just qualify good, and everything really just went our way. I mean, don't get me wrong, we had a really good car all weekend, but out there you can have the fastest car, and if something goes wrong, then you're done for the weekend, and you're probably not going to make the show. So we were fortunate enough that everything went our way, and we were just able to put a complete weekend together, and turned out in our favor.
Well, and you had that new look on there. This ABC is that correct? ABC Auto Parts, is that some kind of new partnership or something?
It's ABC Supply.
Supply, okay.
And Certainty. So like that's like your siding and roofing, like shingles and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're hoping to try to get them to come on board with their late model side. So I own all my late model stuff, and then I just drive that modified stuff for a guy. His name's Jerry Foster. He does all like. He does siding and roofing, and I think he builds a couple houses and stuff a year. So, yeah, he's in pretty tight with them guys, and we're hoping to bring him on board with our late model program.
Yeah, I was just trying to get some highlights up of this race. You know, a lot of people kind of underestimated how stout this actual field was. I mean, Grabowski and some of these other guys, I mean, I was saying I was sitting next to Jack Dover, a pretty prominent 360 sprint car driver in the Midwest, and I was trying to explain to him, like, you know, these guys, you know, when RTJ was coming out and how he looked so good in the late model, I was like, RTJ's probably going to have a harder time performing in the modified compared to that late model just because of how deep that field
on corner exits to get down the straightaways. I mean, honestly, I kind of started slowing up there towards the end. Like, I don't want to say I was slowing up, but I was more focused on hitting my marks and just kind of, like, I just didn't want to mess up. I didn't want to get to the fence too hard and get tight or, you know, knock the right front off of it or something. So I just kind of started backing up a little bit and just trying to hit the marks and, you know, pay dividends, I guess. It was a heck of a stressful feature. I know that, between Ricky there at the beginning and then Mike there at the end, that I had my hands full with them.
Well, you've been in a lot of stressful situations. Of course, we opened the year here with you being a topic with this whole Lucas Lee East Bay situation that I commented on. And, you know, it does seem like, I mean, back to, you know, people underestimating the modified fields. I feel like that down there in Florida, y'all kind of get ignored. I mean, the modifieds down there are racing almost every day, it feels like. And I mean, somewhat for peanuts as well, you know.
Oh, yeah. These mods, man, I don't know. That's one reason why we've kind of really rerouted to the late model stuff a lot this year is because, I mean, you go out and race a modified for a lot of places. Like, I mean, I'm not dogging on, like, the UMP world, but, like, you go and race for $1,000, $1,200 on some of these big races. Like, all the summer national events this year paid, like, $1,200, and they get 30, 40 cars, but yet we're paying just about the same amount as what we do at late model for these mods.
Right.
So, like, it just doesn't even make sense. Like, I mean, they treat, I don't know, everyone keeps on showing up, so I guess they aren't going to pay any more money, you know? And,
well, and your location kind of hurts you there. Like, if you grew up in freaking Kansas or, you know, Wisconsin or Minnesota or somewhere, you know, not in IMCA country, even though IMCA pays pretty good. But what I'm saying is if you were growing up in a more so USMTS you know, region and you were racing modifieds, you know, it might be a different story. I mean, Todd Staley,
Right.
USMTS, I mean, I think, what are they, minimum of 10,000 to win at some of their shows now on, whether it's a Friday, Saturday, like the Saturday night has to be a minimum of 10. We got
Yeah.
100,000 to win this year with the XR situation. I don't know about that XR situation. There's a lot of things in the background with that, but I just feel like the one thing that I think kills modifieds socially, and I made a video about this, is on streaming they just look slow. And I don't know if that's because most of the time they're like tandoed with late models, and like at the beginning of the year, Volusia and stuff, we get the literal visual differences of seeing a late model fly or a sprint car or something fly, and then the modifieds come out there and look like they're 20 or 30, like tied to a stump. But for me,
Right.
in person and the racing that modifieds can put on is great, but the actual streaming of it, they just look slow on camera.
Yeah, they definitely. I agree with what you said. I mean, that USMTS deal is a pretty stout deal and a really good field of cars. I mean, that's like the Lucas Oil or the Outlaws of
Yeah,
modified for sure.
definitely.
Um, but yeah, the modifieds are definitely they're just so underrated, really. Like they don't get a whole lot of publicity, but yet there's a lot of really good drivers that are in that deal.
Right.
I mean, look at Ricky Thornton. He came from modified racing, and
And the budget
I mean, he
class,
was
the crate cars of IMCA,
yeah, and that's Jimmy Owens and Mike Marlar. Like they all
Mm-hmm.
came from modifieds. So I feel like they're a really good class, especially for like a starter class or whatever. But I mean, they're a good class to run
Now, you did
if
make
they
the
just made a
point that
little bit better.
they are about the same as a modified cost wise in today's world. They're pretty damn close. Why do you think
Yeah.
guys stay in them? Is it fear of competition, fear of something new? They get good at it, and they can make, say, a USMTS guy can make a good amount of money doing it. I mean, Gustin, he dominated USMTS for how long before he made the move? And, he's slowly coming around in the super world as far as being a dominator. I think he can be, but it's taken time. Do you think maybe some of these modified guys look at the example of like a Ryan Gustin and see how long it took or has taken him to be a consistent top 5, top 10 car, and just say, I'll just spend the money that I'm spending and run up front in a modified instead of make the switch for no apparent reason, especially for those USMTS guys?
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, the USNTS stuff. I mean, honestly, if I was out that way, I'd probably just race that deal, only because, I mean, like you said, their purses are like late model purses, So I guess it doesn't really make sense for them because they probably save, 15, 20 grand on a motor and probably about 10 grand on a car.
Tires,
So
probably.
yeah, I mean, tires, I mean, just a little bit of everything that goes into it, shocks and stuff. I mean, they're probably saving $40,000, we'll say, I mean, roughly, and they can race for the same purse as what the late model guys do. Now, for us, UMP guys, we're racing for $1,200 or $1,500, and our big races, if there's a race that pays $5,000 somewhere, I mean, it's a crown jewel event for a UMP. So I think that really for a UMP guy, it makes more sense to go and buy a late model. I mean, the initial cost sucks, but in the long run, I think you make more money.
Well, you're so damn young. How do you know? You got to ask your daddy about making money, damn it.
Yeah, something like that. I pretty well take care of that stuff. I mean, we do everything, family oriented. And for the most part, I mean, I see all the ins and outs, and yeah, I'm pretty familiar with what goes on.
Well, I guess we should lay some foundation here. For the viewing audience that don't know, how old are you, and when the hell did you start racing?
I'm 18, and I started racing go-karts whenever I was really little, and then I got me a UMP modified and started racing it whenever I was 11. And we raced that for a couple years, and then whenever I was like 2015, we got a late model, and messed with it a little bit, but we never really got to do it the right way. Like every time we get try to get race late model stuff, we'd have engine issues or we'd have something stupid happen, and we go back to racing mods. And this year, I feel like was my first year that I actually got a fair shot at having a full season in the late model, and definitely learned a lot. I mean, honestly, my godsend was probably switching over to Longhorn chassis this year, and those guys have helped me out a ton. I mean, they just got so much technology behind them, and so many great people that backs them. That really, they've stepped up to the plate and really backed me this year, and that's helped me out more than anything.
Well, you start off by saying 11 years old in a UMP modified. That sounds like somewhat of a decent privileged position. How did that feel to be 11 years old and look around and see that, there ain't nobody else 11 years old driving these cars, knowing now how much their expenses are. I'm assuming there was a little pushback from that at 11.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, I mean, the nice thing about that was I ran decent around home here, and I mean, all we had was an older car that we got for a little bit of nothing, and we traded all my go-kart stuff up for a motor. And we had an open trailer laying around, and we used a truck of ours, or heck, we borrowed someone else's truck, or there for a while we borrowed someone else's trailer to get to the racetrack. And we've been through it. We put in our dues. Everyone thinks that everything was just gave to me and or gave to us, from the start. And
but don't you think that's because that's what they're used to seeing when they see a guy or a kid in a full size race car? They assume that this is just another rich kid in that aspect. They don't think that it's maybe a father or somebody just wanted to give his kid experience and opportunity at a young age and is doing all he can to put him into a decent car that he's going to learn something in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's me and my dad.
What's he going to put you in, a street stock? That ain't going to teach you how to drive a late model down the road. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and my dad really busted his tail along with all my other family, of course, but my dad really busted his tail to help me get going, because obviously at 11, 12, 13 years old, I had no idea how to get sponsors and stuff. So he really worked hard and got me set up, and unfortunately he passed away there whenever I was 16, and since then, I've pretty well run my racing operation on my own. Of course, my mom helps me out. Both sets of my grandparents help me out a lot. I definitely have a lot of backing in my family, but
so that's a curious question. So he was getting you going in this modified 11 years old, and you were saying flatbed and all that. How did that develop into getting into late model racing? Because that's a little bit of a different. Even though we were just saying how modifieds and late models are close in expenditure, when you're talking about an old used car to a new late model, that's a big gap. When you're talking about flatbed trailer to a damn semi, that's a big gap. So how did that bridge get crossed? What was the path to make that happen?
Well, we started getting sponsors, of course. Everyone wanted to hop on board because I was young and we were running decent, so we started getting a lot of sponsors, and we tried to market ourselves really well, so that helped out a lot. And my second year racing, we decided, and my second year racing, we put together a PRI car, a modified, and that, you can, with the product sponsors and stuff, I was able to cut the price of my car in half. So we sold the car I had the first year, and we got this PRI car, and I had a motor sponsor that helped me out on all my motor stuff, and we went out and won 14 races with it. So then,
how old were you then?
My third, I would have been 12, 13. that year. And then my next year, we put another PRI car together with Close Racing Supplies, and I was like the house car for them. Drove a Rage chassis, and same deal. We went to PRI to cut the price in half and stuff, and Close helped us out a lot. And again, I had another motor sponsor, LaSalle Racing Engines, that they hooked us up for all of our motor stuff, and we went out again, and we won like 15 races. And
when you say 115, what areas, what tracks are we talking about there?
We ran a lot of local stuff, of course, at that point, because I was young. We only raced probably about 40 races a year at that point, 40, 50 races a year, and just around like the regional area. We travel.
Well, what would have been some of those regional tracks that you cut your teeth on? What are we talking about? I don't know the geographics there. I'm sure a little bit of Ohio, a little bit of PA. Where are you talking?
A little bit of Maryland, a little bit of West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, North Carolina, like stuff like that. Just East Coast stuff.
Okay.
And
so basically had a back-to-back season of around 15 race wins, 12, 14, 15 race wins back-to-back at 12 and 13.
Yep. Yeah, I was 12, 13 in my second year, and like 13, 14 my third year racing. So then we put together a PRI late model, and we had a motor that we had from Pro Power.
Not trying to step on you. I know I am again and cutting you off. But when you say, for some people, and even me, I'm a little confused. When you say putting together, like you've said, because when you say these things, people are like, I need to do it. They may be taking advice from you right now. If they got a kid, they may be thinking of doing what you're talking about to try to potentially do what you have done, which is a very successful way, in the late model industry to even be racing where you are at 18. It's something you really don't see in a successful way in the fender'ed world. We see it all the time in the sprint car industry. When you say we put together a PRI modified or put together a PRI late model, what do you exactly mean when you say that?
So like we took and we really marketed my age, of course, just because that was a pretty like we call and all these different product people. Like,
the mountains are getting to him. He told me he was driving in North Carolina, so the mountains may be getting to him. The mountains may be blue. I'm not sure if they're cold. He said he would call back if we did lose him. Hold on just a second. He said he's driving down the road. We'll see if we can get him back here onto the line. He did say he was driving. I'm really interested on hearing about this PRI modified and late model to get an accurate description of what he's talking about when he describes that. Because I think it's pretty important for people to hear, especially when he's talking about being able to acquire these different things. So he may be in a dead zone right now, driving in the middle of nowhere. We're working on it right now. Anyways, I guess we could check the chat right now. Drake, have you ever raced modifieds in California? That's a good question. I'm actually interested in knowing that. Let's see here. Jerry Foster, same guy who used to run SLM in Hagerstown. Let's see. Once again, probably still in a dead zone. It is in the middle of North Carolina. Does take money to make money, but it sounds like Drake Troutman came from some money and not a lot of money and had to work really hard for it. So that's why it's a very interesting perspective. In the open world, we're used to people, if you don't have the money at all, you ain't going to go nowhere. We don't really hear about these successful younger drivers in the open wheel world coming from a little money. They have to come from a lot of money and get into very expensive renter rides at a very young age to even think about pursuing a racing career. Or somebody has to come and invest into them or find a way to gain a bunch of money in a very quick way. Talk to the right people, get the right sponsors. Now, sounds somewhat similar what's happening here with Troutman, but it sounds like there's a little more detail, and I want the detail. This is a reason why I would like to have Kyle Larson on the show I wouldn't sit here and just bash Kyle Larson hours on hours. I would want to know the actual story on what actually switched here, what changed there, how he got his opportunities, who he actually talked to, what actually worked, how it happened. And even if that may look Kyle or may make Kyle look like he was lucky in a lot of times, it would still be very interesting to see or hear the exact details of how that all went down. So I'm actually very intrigued to hear this. But hold on, looks like we missed a call from him. Looks like he's finally got the phone back. Oh, maybe not. These North Carolina mountains, they can be interesting. They can be devilish. Let's see if we could do it one more time. I think we got him now. He just tried to call me on my cell phone. We're trying to call him on the deal. Oh! I think we got him back. All right, we got you back.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
Those North Carolina mountains, man. Those North Carolina mountains.
We're up here through the mountains.
It's no joke. People think it's just flat over there. No, it's hilly.
Oh yeah,
The Appalachian. Did we lose you again?
What's that?
Oh, sorry. I thought we lost you again. We'll pick up where we left off. When you say PRI modified or late model, what does that actually mean? That you put together a PRI late model. You said the same thing for the modified. What does that exactly mean?
Just in other words, you get a lot of products. Like we've got to a bunch of product people and see what they could help us out with and what for the car, and then we take it to the show and try to represent them. So. We put together a new car there for a couple of years, and we're able to do it through marketing like the BRI show. And
so that's what you're saying, because I've heard a lot of people say that that's not real. Like I've heard people say, people think they're going to go to PRI and get all these sponsors and get this and that, and they go there and it's just like that's not what happens. It's more so people trying to sell things than give things. But you're saying in your scenario, you go in there and selling yourself, trying to put together a car, a ride at PRI worked for you.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people think if they just go and walk at PRI, PRI, in the rear. Like I'm gonna be straight up with you. It's a lot of work and hassle to get everything put together and get in the booth and putting your car together and making sure it's all real nice looking, and like it's a lot of work. But I mean, at the time we didn't have much of an option but to do that. So, that's what we did for 4 or 5 years. We did that.
Okay. Well, I was just curious. It is kind of getting a little gargly. I don't know if it's in and out because you're driving through the crazy areas, but I think we pretty much got the gist there. You're basically saying that is what you did, get the support at PRI to be able to put these teams together. Or maybe the mountains just won again. The mountains won again, ladies and gentlemen. We'll try one more time. Maybe we just need to reset the connection on this thing. We'll see. Freaking North Carolina is always out there to block you, just like they're here to block the entire sport of dirt track racing. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. All right, let's see what some comments are saying. I would like to ask this California. California had some good modified drivers from both Northern and Southern California and Oregon. Nice to see them at the season-ending open shows. Yeah, that's very interesting. Ethan Dotson was a big name that came out of that area recently, and to me, hasn't really done nothing super impressive. I mean, I know he's done some stuff in modifieds that's decently well, but I mean, it seems like he's got some decent late model shots and hasn't really capitalized with them. So that was probably the most recent. I do think that there's a lot of modifieds and fendered racing over there. But y'all are in the same boat as pretty much every fendered racer in like central Pennsylvania. You know, if you're not in a sprint car, no one cares. You know, if you're not in that full blown operation, no one cares. I think we got him back. Do we finally got him back? Have you went through the
Man,
hills?
I'm so sorry. Listen, I'm like 10 minutes away from like a little city deal, and then I should be all right
Okay.
after that. But it might be a little iffy for another 10 minutes or so.
I'm filling it in pretty good. All these people want to talk about California modifieds. They want to know if you've raced over there, all this stuff. I was kind of hating on Ethan Dotson a little bit. Not really, but I was just saying he came over and he did well in the Longhorn car, you know, but he's had some decent shots in late models and hasn't capitalized on them. I feel like if you're a really good modified guy, when you get a late model shot, you really do need to show out when you get it. You know, you have to perform.
Yeah, Ethan's a heck of a wheel man. I'll tell you,
He is modified.
He's a smart guy. I think he'll be good in that late model. He gets him a few races under him. You know, like, he really hasn't got to race a late model that much. Where like, you know, like I've been fortunate enough, I got to race my late model stuff this year 100 times. Or, I mean, he's really only got to race his stuff, you know, 15. He'll be a force to reckon with. I mean, once he gets that deal rolling, he'll be good.
I mean, he was so dominant in modifieds and really splashed hard. I believe it was World Finals where he debuted in that Longhorn car a couple years ago and really lit him up. But anyways, your transition into late model. So you're saying y'all were doing well in the modified and you wanted support to go to late models. So you went to PRI and garnished that support to be able to make that jump.
Yeah, yep. So we did that, and we ended up breaking. Well, we probably ran that late model about 20, 30 times that year, and raced the modified probably about 50 or 60. So we ran about 90 events there. Like
at 14.
My fourth, yeah, like 14, 15 years old, and we ended up winning like 5 late model races that year, and we ended up winning, I think, 10 mod races. So we won like another 15 races.
Any
like
big high profile any high profile events at that point or no?
We a lot of
like that's a
regional
big
stuff.
step.
Like like our late model stuff was all regional stuff. You know, like $3-4 grand to win stuff. And really, at that point, we were still just mainly regional. Now, like the next year after that is the year that we really started to capitalize, I guess you could say, on some of the opportunities we were given. Like we went to East Bay whenever, well, I was 15, 16 years old then. So this would be in 21. And we went to East Bay, and we ended up winning first night we went down there. And then we won another race later on in the week. And this is with modified stuff. We raced a lot of modified stuff in 2021.
Did you bring the late model to Florida?
I did not. No,
okay.
I just raced my mod down there. We focused on it. And so we won 2 races there. We went to North Carolina at Fayetteville, North Carolina, and we ended up beating Nick Hoffman in a $5 grand to win show down there. And that was pretty big for us. Like, I felt like that's where we kind of, between those, we're getting put on the map a little bit. And then we went to Bristol, and we ran 3rd in that race down there. And then throughout the season, we won a bunch of, it was called Renegades of Dirt. It was a big series. It was ever around the East Coast here. And we ran all up and down. And we ended up winning 22 races that year.
And did you mainly focus modified then, I guess?
Yeah, I only ran like 10 late model shows that year. I think we won like 2 late model shows. But so yeah, we won the series championship with the Renegades deal, and we picked up 22 wins, and that was the same year that everything happened to my dad. It happened in like August, so to win that deal was definitely special to us, you know. And
so you had to race the rest of the year after that.
Yeah, we raced the next weekend after everything happened to him, and we ended up winning. Yeah.
Well, that had to be a little different though.
Oh yeah, it was tough. It was real tough, but I mean, it ain't gonna get no better. All these people sit around and grieve, and you aren't
Right.
gonna get any better sitting around and grieving. We would have been racing if he was there, so that's what we were gonna do without him there, and we made the best with what we had. It was a struggle, like I'm telling you. And the end of 21 and 22, like trying to do it, because he took care of pretty well everything. Like I just worked on the car, like I didn't have to manage my stuff. So whenever I started having to manage my stuff and being a boss, and in the end of 21 and 22, because I had a full-time guy working for me, I was just struggling.
So you were a boss of a
struggling.
race team at 16 years old?
Yeah, and I was running
Forcefully.
that, and I didn't, I guess technically have to keep doing it, but I love racing so much,
Well, yeah, that's
whenever
got to be
everything
such
happened to him,
that has to be a whirlwind of emotions, I mean, every
Right.
hard moment that could have came up, it's not like you had anyone to blame, I mean, it was, and you
Yeah.
had no one to turn to as well, and your dad is gone. Like,
Yeah,
that's a hit.
yeah, it was rough. I mean, it was like we were struggling, man. Like I was trying to race my mod and late model, and I ain't gonna lie, I was showing up to the racetrack late. Like I was like, it was just a lot. And I got one of my buddies. I had my full-time guy that at the time he ended up quitting and going another direction. He got a better opportunity working for a full-time late model team. So he went that direction, and I was kind of on my own with some volunteer help I had. And
And this is coming
I got a
up.
hold of
This
one
is
of my
off season coming up to, I guess, speed weeks, or were you even going to do speed weeks because of the situation?
Yeah, yeah. We went to Speed Weeks and ran down there. And we actually took a late model down to Speed Weeks in 22, so we actually ran decent down there. We only made, I think, like 2 shows or 3 shows.
That's hard down there.
And yeah. I mean, we were just like, trying to go down there, like our motor stuff. Like we had, and not that there was anything wrong with it, but like we just had a local guy doing our motors, and like we didn't have established dirt late model team. Like we were just kind of going to get our feet wet and try to make the best of what we had. And I always wanted to go down and do it, so we went down there, and we just straight up got our asses kicked. Like that's what it came down to being. And so
Now,
back.
when it came down to the finances to do all that, I'm still curious because your dad goes away. Obviously, it seemed like by this point, you and your dad had worked enough, and I'm assuming you worked with him not only on the car, but in any kind of way you could to help fund the stuff in an early age as you could. But it seemed like by this point, you had built the relationships and put in the work. I know Tyler Carpenter said daddy's money was, not daddy's work ethic, not daddy's money. And I made the point in my video on that. You can have daddy's money, but if you don't have daddy's work ethic, you're gonna fail in this sport. It seems like at that point, y'all had already you had already built the work ethic, and financially, it seems like the team had already built a foundation of support to be able to keep it going at the time he had passed on. I assume, right? Or
Oh yeah. We had we already established a lot of really great sponsors at that point. And, at the time, I was running MB Customs, and Jimmy Mars was behind me. He helped me out a lot and got me through, there and was helping me set up stuff. And, like I said, I was 16, at the time. So, I didn't really know a ton about the setup stuff. I mean, I knew enough to get me through, but so I was doing all that stuff now on my own, and then we got
this is
going into
2022.
Yeah, and went down to Speed Weeks, and like I said, we just got our rear ends handed to us, and we ended up picking up 15 wins that year. So it really wasn't a terrible year, but it wasn't quite on the level I wanted to win them at either. I mean, we won some cool races, but we didn't win quite on the level I wanted to win them at. So
And how hard
Um,
was it to run both cars at this point, or did you have to pick and choose? I'm assuming.
yeah, I mean, we were running both cars a lot, but I was picking and choosing too. And so we went to the Dome, and I won there at the Dome, that prelim deal. And honestly, that kind of set a little bit of a spark back in us. I mean, that kept us going because, I mean, I was pretty down on myself after, I mean, we won 15 races, but it wasn't the year that we should have had. So, like, that was, down and just everything that goes on behind the scenes that people just don't know about. Everyone thinks that everything's always rainbows and peaches,
Well, especially when you're
I
your
mean,
age and you're out there in a real car, they just assume you're, you know,
no, yeah.
a prince in the king's monarchy. They just assume it's easy. So
Yeah. Well, so then I went to PRI and was walking around, and Jerry Foster came up to me, which was the guy that I raced the modified for this past year, and he said he wanted me to race his Longhorn stuff, and said he had a new one, and I said, all right. I said, well, let's see what we can do, and I raced his stuff down there at Florida and ran exceptionally well, and the Longhorn people were really great to us, so I ended up switching my late model stuff over to Longhorns, and it was able to allow me to put all my focuses into my late model team and just work on my late model, and I got this full-time crew kit now that was from a school right next door to mine. So he's only 19 years old and I'm 18, and I got like 4 other kids that come down to the shop and help us out all the time as well. Like, I mean, we're all young, but they all love it, and they love coming down to the shop and giving me a hand. So
this must be the group that Fager was talking about. It's just you and this one guy living in a trailer.
Yeah, it was me, the 19-year-old, and I got another boy. He's only 15. He traveled with me all summer long, and I'll tell you what, I don't think I trade them for the world. They work really hard, and for their age, they're really professional, and they do take this deal really serious. And got posted on Facebook the other day. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but the only sport that I know that you can go out and you can win one night, and the next night you don't make the show, or you're running a V main, and you're just off. Like, it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter if you're Jonathan Davenport, Bobby Pierce, Ricky Thornton. They all go through the same stuff, and you work endless hours, and you just gotta love it. You gotta really want it. You gotta really want it. I mean, like, it's gotta be your life. And those boys make it their life as I do mine, and we work. If we need to stay up for 2 days without no sleep, and that's what we do to make sure that we can go race that weekend and try to be as good as the car can be, make it as good as it can be. And we were able to pick up 22 wins this season with that crew there, and the other boys that come down to the shop that are all young. And my other volunteer help that I got that goes with me too. But like, all summer long, like I said, it was me, a 19-year-old and a 15-year-old that was living in a toter home and traveling up and down the road for.
It's so night and day different. I hate on some of the younger racers in the sprint car communities, but those guys are hopping out the car after the hot laps and getting on their cell phone and walking in the trailer and texting while a crew comes out and fixes the car or does whatever. These are guys that wad the car up and leave and go do something else, or load their helmet bag and go to the airport. It's such a different element. And maybe there are some guys in the late model world that do that, but I think it's kind of important because I feel like the racing world is used to that image of younger kids in racing. They're used to that kid who just gets out the car and has a full crew working on the car for him. In racing, period. Right. I mean, you see younger racers in the asphalt industry that go up over there, and it's a similar scenario. They're not working on their cars. They're not putting in the effort. They're just drivers. They're co-trickles, helmet bag, and that's it.
Right. Yeah, for sure. There is. I mean, all your late model guys really for the most part. Like if you're on the road, and I mean, you're probably working your rear end off. Like if you're, like Tyler Erb said at the beginning of the year, like the cream always rises to the top. So like you might get these kids that come into the dirt late model world and are after a little while, and it's so damn hard
Oh,
to work. I mean, it's awesome to race for a living. Don't get me wrong. We're all more fortunate in the world to be able to do what to do and go race for a living. But like it is tough. Like I mean, you work a lot, and like I said, you don't have a life because you're either gone racing, and whenever you're not gone racing, you come back home and you thrash on the car and you get things freshened up because you got 2, 3, 4 days until you get ready to go again for another week.
right.
So I mean, it's a tough deal, and I'm really, not to go back to it, but I'm really fortunate that I got such a young crew behind me because I'm hoping these boys will be with me for a long time, and like I said, they work their rear ends off for me. So we're going to keep on digging, and going into next year, we got some momentum with us. We had a really good season this year, and we're trying to get our ducks in a row and be more prepared than ever, and I feel like we are. And I got a really good opportunity with Chris Bragg out of Texas, and I'm going to race his late model stuff for him some. And
He was a real good racer down there. When I was a kid, Chris Bragg was like the man on the west side of Dallas. He was the man back in the day.
Yeah. Yep. And he's a heck of a nice guy, and he's between him and Jerry Foster, they've given me the opportunity of a lifetime, and this is what we've been working for. We've worked this long to try to get a ride, and I feel like we're everything's starting to pay off, and once you do get something like that, you got to work just as hard to maintain it. So we're gonna hopefully make the best out of this year. We're gonna go to Vado and hopefully have a really good kickoff to our 2024 season.
So you obviously have a decent amount of experience in both cars, modified and late model. Had an interesting talk with Fager last night that I think the biggest difference between those two cars, especially how they race, is the nose of the car. That open wheel versus that nose, turns that late model into an aero-dependent vehicle where I feel like the modified, you have your side forces and stuff like that, a little bit of the deck, but you don't necessarily have a nose that's controlling. That's the first contact point of your race car to your speed is the nose in the late model, because that's where it's catching air. That's where your first impact of force is at. Where I feel like the first impact of force with the late model is potentially your right front or something like that. Whereas the late model with that nose, that's the first thing that's creating inertia. What's the biggest difference that you see? Am I correct in that assessment? Of course, I'm just a sprint car guy. We do know about air over here. We got wings and stuff, but it seems like that's the bigger difference in how those cars handle and drive is that nose.
Yeah, the nose is definitely a big factor. I mean, honestly, with the mod stuff, between your front clip, because your front clip's obviously a GM front clip, like a Chevelle or metric front, and your rear end's a little more erratic in the mod just because you're on a pull bar, and then you only got 8-inch tires. So like a late model, you can really go in there and set the car and get it all twisted up and get back into the throttle. Where a modified, you kind of got to drive it straight through the turn. Like you can't really get in there and get it all bent up. You just lose so much speed, and you never really get it. You lose a lot of drive and side force. And like if you get the tires and stuff up underneath of you, then you can carry it out through the turn. If you lose the tires up underneath of you, then you never really get them back. You kind of got to wait till the next turn. So late models aren't really like that. Late models are, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but the late models are probably a little bit easier to drive, really.
But what about when air comes a factor? Traffic. That's where I was talking about. I felt like that the modified can race better in traffic and get closer and maneuver a little better because it's not as dependent on that air and with that nose.
Yeah, mods are definitely easier as far as that goes. Late models are are more technical. Like, you got to use your head a lot more racing them things, just because, like, you can't ever follow someone, like, into a turn. Like, if you either got to be out around them, like, to the right rear quarter panel, or you got to be at least, like, half a car width up underneath of them. So if not, you'll lose your front end, and you'll just get in there and get airtight, and you'll push across the track. So air is really big. Yeah, really big in the late model stuff. And like you said, it's just all from your noses. You know, you got so much downforce that goes onto that nose. You know, I feel like that's, I don't know. I mean, there's an argument, I guess. I feel like the last couple of years, dirt late model racing's kind of been a little sucky. But then on another hand, I feel like this year it's really stepped up. And I think it's a lot of, you know, just to mix a little bit of everything. But I think these UMP tires that we're on now, like the LM2s, 3s, and 4s that we switched to this year, I think it's really helped the late model racing.
Now, how do you feel about the tech area? It seems like they're a little more stricter over there in the late model department. Of course, you know, I started the year with my old Droop a Please scenario with Brandon Overton because I don't know how he was passing Droop. I mean, when he unloaded Golden Owl and was 6 feet in the air with the left side of the car, I just didn't understand it. I'm assuming that was a little bit of a difference maker too, is seeing the tech with the late model scenario and how mechanical it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's not terrible. The late models are I don't know. I mean, you get droop checked and I mean, they check for, there isn't really a whole lot you can really tech for these late models because they're so wide open. Like, they're just, it's not like there's really a whole lot of rolls to them, you know? So, I mean, it's not awful.
Of course, you had the droop.
Well,
the droop was the big, you know, naysayer to begin the year, you know, or of course, 22's when it all started, but.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's, other than that, I mean, everything's pretty well wide open. You can't run spring rods, and you can't run a Gleason in your rear end. Other than that, it's, can't shoot nitrous. That's, you know what I mean? I mean, obviously there's more things than that, but like, it's pretty open. It's a pretty open book.
Well, I would assume that probably the biggest difference between the modified and the late model would be the difference between, I would say, it's more significant of a change between regional competition and national competition in the late model division. It seems like if you're good in a modified, we got a lot of examples of guys who will just stay regional their entire career, you know, and I think that's why some of the regional competition is so stiff in modified competition, is because people will just stay regional. But it feels like in that late model division, if you're good regional, you almost have to go to that national region or national stage, and that's why I think that national scene for the late models is so tough.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's, you know, everyone's so equal anymore that, you know, just a little mishap in qualifying can set your night back. And that's what I was saying earlier. Like, one night you might be able to put together a perfect night, and you'll go out and win or run top 3, top 5 with them national guys, and the next night and you're running a B main, or you might not even make the show. So, you know, there's about, I don't know, probably about 30 national teams out there that's been traveling up and down the road for, you know, probably longer than I've been alive. And so to be able to go and, you know, compete this year like we did with them, I mean, we didn't really have real high expectations this year, so we made a lot of the races with them guys this year. I think we went to like 25 Lucas Oil and Outlaw races combined, and we made like 18 of them. So, I mean, it wasn't bad. I can deal with that, and you know, expectations obviously just keep on growing, and I don't know. Hopefully next year we can, you know, start being a little more consistent, and hopefully consistently making the shows for heat races and stuff.
Right, and I'm assuming, is national late model where you want to be? You know, I make a joke all the time. That's why I kind of joke with the younger racers of the sprint car industry. You know, the icon of the sprint car world for 30 years, in my opinion, and I joke and say it's a code trickle. You know, and a code trickle to me is, you know, a sprint car driver who goes to NASCAR, and that's the icon, that's the star. I feel like late model racing was kind of saved because of the Scott Bloomquist's Billy Moyers, in that era. They were the stars of the fendered industry. So the money and the fame and the young racers of sprint car racing have been trying to pursue a NASCAR career and have been using dirt traditionally for a stepping stone to get to that goal of the iconic position. Where it seems like on the fendered world, to me, the goal of these younger kids and younger generations are to be a Bloomquist or to be a Davenport or to be the icon of y'all's industry, which is a full-time super late model driver. Is that true, or are you a wannabe NASCAR guy too? Do I need to start hating y'all, or what's going on?
No, that's I just, since I've been little, all I wanted to do was go race with the Lucas Oil guys or the World Outlaw guys and be able to be competitive. So
y'all don't care about Tyler Reddick. You're not trying to be Tyler Reddick, is what you're saying. You're trying to be you're trying to be the man of y'all's industry, and the icon of y'all's industry is winning Lucas and national championships. Although I do make that comparison, it seems like that winning events are more important in y'all's world as well. Like winning World 100 is bigger sometimes than winning a either or championship, because y'all do have two national series. Sprint car racing is getting split up right now. I think that's good for the competition element, for people getting paid more, because it in the late model world, it's kind of been a bidding war for the talents of the industry over the years, and that's why it's paying so much more and has all the fans and all that. But it also kind of takes away the importance of winning a championship, one or the other, whereas in the sprint car world, there was just one championship, and if you won that, you were declared the best sprint car driver of that year because you won the only national title. Whereas in the late model industry, there's been that split, and I have seen an emphasis, or it feels like there's an emphasis on winning these bigger marquee events, whether that is a World 100 or USA Nationals or Florence North-South, because when you win those events, you can say you beat everybody on this big giant stage. Is there any merit to that as well?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if you can win, even be in contention to win something like that, you're doing something right and you got something to be proud of. But I mean, really, at the end of the day, if you can win a Lucas Oil race or you can win an Outlaw show, you're a pretty bad dude. So
it's just doing that. It's just winning a race. I'm looking at like 2022, who was the best driver in the world in super late models. Most people would say it's not the Lucas champion, it's not the Outlaw champion. That was Jonathan Davenport. He didn't have to win a championship to be declared that guy. He just had to win all the events and all the money.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of I don't know. I mean, I'm the type, which I mean, I know how hard it is to do stuff like to win those races and be competitive in those races. So I mean, I'm just the type that, I mean, if you can be in contention to win something like that, it's like, dang, that was a good night. Or,
How would you have felt to be Ricky Thornton this year?
That, I mean, he was pretty well up on the pedestal on his own. I mean, he was in another universe, that's for sure. He was, I don't know, between him
but
and
he ain't got a
Bobby Pierce,
championship. I mean, the only championship he's got is the belt I gave him that he wore in intros.
Oh yeah, I mean there was a lot of guys that, I mean, just about all them guys that are out on the road racing are out on the road racing for a reason, because they're all some of the best in the country. So this year I feel like Bobby and Ricky, I mean, even though Ricky doesn't have a Lucas Oil championship just because of the way the format was set out, I mean, he did win, I don't know, what was it, like 40 races this year?
41, I believe, after the Gateway prelim, they said. I think it was 41.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of people that can say that they've won 41 races on a national level.
But it does suck to say you broke the winning record in a series and didn't win the championship. I mean, you had to feel a certain way about that. I feel like everyone who was a competitor had to feel a certain way about that.
Yeah, I mean, I do, but like at the same time, I mean, you know what you're signing up for at the beginning of the year. So, I mean, I could see if they threw it on them halfway through the season and was like, hey,
right,
we're going to do this. But I mean, they knew what they were signing up for. And Sadly, Ricky obviously deserved it. Like, not knocking on Hudson, because obviously Hudson had a really good year too. But like, I mean, Ricky won, 22,
Dominated.
23 Lucas events. Yeah, I mean, he dominated the Lucas series. So like, any other year he would have won the championship by far, and it wouldn't even have mattered if he would have showed up to Eldora. So, I mean, that's just kind of way I look at it. I'm not a big points racer. Like, I think it's cool to run for rookie with the Outlaws or rookie with the Lucas, or be able to be in the top 3 or top 5 with one of them in points. But I mean, if you're winning races, who cares?
Now, are you going to do that? Obviously, we've been hearing about people committing in the sprint car world a lot. The late model world hasn't really been. I mean, there's been a few commitments to series, but there hasn't been a tremendous amount publicly. It's kind of been muttered, even if it has been. Are you going to do one or the other next year, or is that still up in the air based on the incentives of each series?
It's still up in the air. We're really trying to work hard on putting some marketing partners together for next year to be able to do something like that. But it's a toss up right now. Yeah.
Which one would you prefer?
I'm gonna say the Outlaws, only because it's more of a stepping stone. I mean,
Oh, you see the Outlaws as like Xfinity.
I see the Outlaws as like, there's 5 of the, like, I'm not saying that the other ones aren't good, but there's 5 of the best in the country in the Outlaws, where you got 10 or 12 in the Lucas deal. So I think, as far as like, which, I mean, there's an argument to that too. I mean,
Well,
they're
yeah, I
both
mean, I
really
feel
good.
like Outlaws swung pretty hard this last year. I feel like Lucas kind of detoured some people, with how that championship thing went down, and they're changing it, obviously. And I mean, just 2 years ago, 3 years ago, there was no debate. It was Lucas Oil was 1A, World of Outlaws was 1B. But this coming up year, this last year, with the addition of Bobby, obviously helped. And we've seen events like the 50K to win at Deer Creek swapped from a Lucas race to an Outlaw race this year. World Outlaws are going to some newer tracks, it seems like. Obviously, they had an issue at Port Royal because of the sprint car situation, but it does seem like World of Outlaws is somewhat, their late model series is getting fairly even to eclipsing that 1A.
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, I mean, they are pretty close. I mean, like I said, that's an argument in itself. Everyone has their own opinion, I guess, but they're both really tough. I mean, like I said, either way, they're if you can compete with either one of them, you're definitely doing something right. So,
Okay.
if we don't end up running the tour, I'm sure we'll still hit a lot of the races, and hopefully we can be competitive in them.
Well, for somebody who is, born in the 2000s, I guess your birthday would have been what, 2004 or 5 or 8?
Yeah, 2005.
5. Okay, 2005. What is your opinion on streaming? These older racers, they got this opinion that streaming needs to be throwing us money. They need to be giving back more. Of course, they've been around the block a little more than you have. I mean, just based on age. What is your thoughts on the streaming industry? A lot of the older folks, like Fager last night, was like, they're making a lot of money. It don't matter if you got 2,000 seats in a grandstand. I think this is why we see a lot of more short tracks getting bigger events, is because, you can have as many fans as you want now at a quarter-mile racetrack based on the streaming industry. What do you feel like the streaming industry is doing, and do you have any opinions on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's,
You're business savvy. You've had to be business savvy. Your dad passed. I mean, you've had to learn all the ins and outs. So that's why I'm asking you. Even though you're 18, you're somewhat mature in the business element.
yeah, I'll tell you what I think it's really good for, is because it's a real selling point whenever you do go to talk to sponsors, because you can tell them that, hey, Flow Racing has, 1 million subscribers. I don't know how much it is, but I'm just using that as an example. Or, this race here, there's 100,000 people watching on Flow, and there was, 15, 20,000 in the stands, whatever the number is. I think it does help because it is televised.
Right. Well, and that's kind of the argument that not to back to business in a weird way. You're on up in the air on the series. You would do World of Outlaws. That was kind of the argument with the sprint car teams not getting technical numbers from Dirt Vision last year. I don't know if it's changed now, but that was one of the argument points in the kind of management areas of the sprint car industry is they couldn't get those numbers from a Dirt Vision. And one of those reasons was I need those numbers to go and shop a sponsor because, like you just said, Flow's apparently being a little more transparent. If you could come and bring actual numbers to a sponsor, potential marketing partner, that's going to place value in what you're doing, and that's going to be able to fund your team more. So you're seeing as far as that is concerned, not necessarily the streaming, giving money to tracks or to the series. You're saying as far as numbers being able to pursue sponsors and marketing.
Yeah, I think it's really good for marketing. I think it does hurt the tracks in some aspects because I think, let's say Flo's only giving them $1,000 or something, and they're losing 400 or 500 fans that might go, but instead they're like, well, we can sit on their couch and watch it on Flow. I don't quite agree with all that, but I mean, listen, everything's so political, and I usually just try to stay out of
the politics of the sport. Run it
part.
now, man. Basically, I'm famous because I talk about the politics that ultimately do a lot of damage to the sport. I mean, I know you don't like to talk about it because it does threaten situations. Because the politics is just like in America. If you want to start talking about the politics, you're talking about the people in the industry that kind of controls how things operate. The politics of the sport is very powerful. I'm sure you know that. That's why you probably don't want to speak on it either.
Oh yeah. I usually try to stay out of that stuff only because I don't like roughing up any feathers or nothing. It's I don't know. There's so many arguments and things that's going on in a racing. I mean, I do think that I don't know. I think as far as the cost stuff with dirt late models, it's completely out of hand, and like it's not very healthy in that aspect. But as far as the fan base, and I mean, really, like our car counts have been pretty good this year. I think I don't know. There's an argument in that. I mean, I guess dirt late model racing is really unhealthy in one point, but the other point, I think it's pretty strong right now too. And I think our fan bases are pretty strong too.
How hard is it to crack into being a marquee name in the sport? I mean, I was talking to Fager last night. I've seen Larson's trailer next to Donnie Schatz's at a sprint car event, and it's around the block for Larson, and it's a couple people at Schatz. Now, I've also seen Davenport and Overton's trailer next to Larson's, and Davenport and Overton are kicking Larson's ass. And my point there is, to be in that industry, though, to compete against Overton and a Davenport and these guys for fans has to be pretty hard to get into that. Is it, or do they come pretty easy?
No, it's tough. I mean, especially being young and stuff. Everyone's always, I mean, you got a lot of
rich
feel
kiddies.
Like I have. Yeah, I mean, like I feel like I got a little more. I guess respect because some people do know, our backstory a little bit.
Well, that's why I wanted to talk
others.
about it, because when Fager said that, I'm like, well, this story's worth representing. There are proper ways to be young in racing, I think, and it sounds like yours is the proper way to do it. Working for it.
Yeah. I mean, we try to do it that way, and but yeah, no, it's definitely tough. I mean, that's. Like I said, that's been my dream, is just to have a name like Davenport or, Bloomquist, like that'd be awesome to one day be looked at like one of them guys. So, obviously you got to perform there to do that. And, definitely, I plan on being around for a long time. So hopefully we can at least make some of the accomplishments that those guys have done happen.
Is going to that national series really what's going to make that step? I mean, because seeing you once in a while at a big event is big, but in a weird way, back to the streaming, when people are watching their streams and they're there to watch the Maddens or the Davenports or the Bobbies or the Ricky Thorntons and their Lucas or whatever series they're following, when they're seeing you every week and they're seeing you perform every week, that seems to me what develops more so that marquee status is kind of committing to one of the other national series.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that will be like a big stepping stone would be to commit to one of them and go out and just put in your dues and go get your rear end kicked for 56 nights a year or whatever it is. Like it's a tough deal, but I think I don't know if we're really ready for it. But
Are you ever?
I think
I mean,
right, exactly. I don't know if you really ever are until you just do it. So
it's like swimming with
it's like
swimming with the shark. I mean, you could prep for it as much as you want, but until you jump into the water with the shark, I mean, it's happening.
Right. Yeah, and that's I think we ran pretty good with them last year. So I think if we do something like that, we'd be capable to be in at least a contention to be like a rookie of the year in one of them, and hopefully run top 10 in points. That would be kind of the goal. So,
I guess the other way to build your status would be the hunt the front way. What does a young racer like you view how the hunt the front? Because some people respect what they did. Not mean to cut you off there, but it's just an element to this conversation. Some people respect what Hunt the Front has done, and some people honestly have hated on it. Some people are about merit. Some people are like, you shouldn't have this amount of fans unless you're doing this amount of shit on the racetrack. To be frank, that's what they'll say. Unless you're kicking some ass, you don't deserve kick-ass support. And I get that. I understand that perspective, but I also understand how much work and time it takes. Nobody really cared about Hunt the Front when they were making, 80 videos a year that were getting 600 views for however long it took, like a personality like Dirt Tracker. There's videos you could go and look at his videos. They got 200 views for months on end. So I understand. I respect and understand the hustle aspect of a situation like that. But then I also understand the people who say you shouldn't be getting big time credibility or stardom unless you've done some big time credibility results on the racetrack. So how do you feel about what the Hunt the Front, I guess you would almost say, business model for stardom in racing?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of different ways that you can make it happen. I mean, there's guys one of the few like him, and like you got Chase Holland, you got a couple other ones that are really making it good off of I shouldn't say good, but they're making it work off the YouTube deal. You know what I mean? Like that's what helps them keep going, which is good for them. I think there's a lot of different ways that you can make this deal work, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't hate on it. I don't dislike it. I don't really think anything of it. I guess I don't really care either way.
I didn't know if you were about to start a YouTube channel and become the new superstar. That's why I didn't know. But.
No. We've got a little bit of a pattern, I guess, we've been doing, so we're just going to keep on rolling with it.
Well, and Hunt the Front at least is giving back. They got that series down there in Florida and stuff. They're trying to do stuff, and obviously they're making money because they're streaming it as well. So it ain't just all a giving back thing. But that's the interesting thing. Next year, so you pick one way or the other. Say for this national series, you've been to Florida a couple times. I got my opinions of Florida. I think the Hunt the Front's helping them, but they got a lot of other issues, and it sucks because it's a great state, a lot of money down there. They could have a very strong racing scene in Florida if organizationals were correct. My question for you is, though, how much does that Florida swing month of time, obviously it costs a lot, and if you don't perform well down there, how demoralizing can it be for a driver to go down there and spend that amount of time? You got to just kill yourself to race down there. You did it in the modifieds. I would argue doing it in the modifieds harder than the late model.
Yeah, honestly, the late model is definitely a lot more grueling. Like you race probably 25 times down there at the late model. where like a mod you only race about 15, and late models are just a lot more work overall. We plan on doing it this year. We're going to try to at least, and go down there and try to run everything. But it's a lot. I mean, it'll beat you down. This deal's really easy to get down on yourself, especially if you aren't running good, So you sit there, and sometimes you got the same equipment, and you're just wondering why you aren't running as good as what some of these other guys do. And look at Brandon Everson. Last year, the year before, he was the man, and now this year,
right.
Not that he had a bad season, but it wasn't what he had the last couple.
Say
of
the
years.
same for Davenport.
Really? Right, and Davenport, and Ricky Thornton's put in his dues, and I'm sure he's thought that the last couple of years. And now this year, he's the man. So
right.
I think it's just all it's a roller coaster. Like this whole racing deal is just a roller coaster, and different drivers peak at different moments, and it's just a constant rotation. Like everyone, what goes around comes around kind of deal.
Well, and you're on the road so much. Late models, I know sprint car people will say y'all don't race that much, but if you're full blow going in a fendered car, you start racing in January and you don't really stop until the Dome almost. I think you could almost race this week if you wanted to somewhere. It's not super easy to do at all. It's tough. I was just curious about that Florida deal because it does seem like it's a tone setter. Seems like whoever does well down there in Florida usually is able to have a grasp on the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough deal.
Okay. I was just curious. If you want to bring the modified, I can run the backup car. We can film it.
We only got one mod.
I'm just kidding. But no, I thought that. But you said you're starting at Vado.
Yeah, we're gonna go to Vado and then go right from there to Florida.
And then you'll be in Florida the whole time, I'm assuming?
We're gonna try to. Yeah, that's the plan.
Now, are you gonna run a sprint car at any point when y'all have those Tando high limit races? Or do you have any open wheel aspirations?
I would like to drive one time, but I'm not gonna do nothing. I highly doubt that I ever do, but if an opportunity ever occurred that I could, then I would absolutely take it.
Well, it's definitely a different beast. It drives off the left rear, not the right, which is completely opposite than every car out there. It just doesn't operate the same. Let's see if we got some questions here in the YouTube section here. It says, being from PA, what does Drake Troutman think of the weekly late model field at Port Royal compared to the national tour? I don't know if that's even a question.
Yeah, honestly, people would be surprised though. Like if you look at Port on a weekly level,
Satterley,
look at their guys that's there. Yeah, you got Satterley, Flinner, Eckert. You got a handful of guys that whenever the national touring guys come in, they can compete. They're a threat. So I do think if you can win a race at Port Royal, you're doing something right. That's a strong regional field.
Looks like I found one question. I lost it again. What does your racing schedule next year look like? They're asking for the modified and the late model. I'm assuming you can't answer that until you know if you commit to a series or not.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to. I don't know. I'd really like to run a series deal. It just all depends on the marketing stuff. You know what I mean? On sponsorship things. So hopefully we can get enough sponsorship stuff wrapped up and we can make something happen.
Right. Okay. So you may run a sprint car. You will be at Florida. You will be at Vado. You're skipping the chili boat just like Larson. By the way, you are better than Kyle. Don't let him trick you. Just because you don't have Asian blood in you, don't mean you can't keep up with his ass. All right.
Man, that guy's good.
He's good. I'm not saying he ain't good. All right, I'm not. But in my opinion, Ricky Thornton Jr. and Kyle Larson are the same people. I respect Ricky a little bit more because he threw a fucking modified on a flatbed and went and made everything he has out of working his ass off. So I respect that a little more. But I think there's a ton of Kyle Larsons out there that just didn't. Like that's why I said if I was to interview Kyle, I wouldn't sit here and hate on him. I would joke with him, of course, but I would want to know more so, or have him explain the things that had to fall perfectly right, not just his skill, where he is today. Because I mean, he didn't come from money, but money came to him, opportunities came to him, and I just am a firm believer that there's other there even let's just say he is Tom Brady. I think there's some Peyton Mannings out here. I think there's some Drew Breeses out here. I think there's some guys out here that are just as good. They just didn't have all those pieces fall into place.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's definitely some of the best regional racers. I mean, they just never really get to like make it, to the national level just because of sponsorship issues or finances or whatever. And I mean, that's one of the biggest holdbacks for us is like, do you ever really get like the best shot? Like not to be that guy, because obviously like Davenport. I mean, like if you ever watch some of his stuff, he's obviously been through it too. I mean, he started with nothing and he's made something out of it. But like you look at them guys now and like they got it. I mean, they got the best of the best equipment, and I mean, like finances aren't really a problem. Where I guess most everyone has to put in their dues like that, and I think right now that's kind of like in like what era I'm in. I'm just trying to put in my dues and trying to get out there enough to get seen. And lucky enough for us, I mean, we were able to land that Chris Bragg ride, and hopefully we're able to capitalize on that deal and make something out of it.
Well, I definitely think that you are in the right world. I mean, you know how you was just saying a second ago how, you get kind of hated on for being a kid in a super late model. And you have a track record of racing in full-size race cars since 11. And you get hated a little bit for that. In the sprint car industry, those people are praised. And if they don't, now the difference is in the sprint car industry, if that 11-year-old who's racing a Keith Coons ride and then a sprint car at 14, if that guy doesn't get to NASCAR by 21 and he's like a Spencer Basin goes to race sprint cars or something, or Tanner Thorson, these are guys who did exactly what Larson did but didn't have the shots. These guys all of a sudden lose that fame. They're all of a sudden becoming a known, unknown name, unless the Spencer goes outlaw racing, then he kind of builds a name, but he's still not at the top. It seems like in the sprint car industry, if you're a young kid and you don't make that shot and you go back to full-time dirt racing, you've stepped down into the second pedal stool of stardom, where it feels like in the late model industry, even though you are getting, I guess, hated on for being a young little rich kid or whatever they're saying, obviously we've learned tonight their misjudgment of who you are. It still feels like if you go out there, you still have opportunity at 23, 24, 25, these years that open wheel guy, if he didn't go to NASCAR, he's relegated to nowhere stardom. You still have the opportunity to build stardom in your industry. You have the opportunity to become a Davenport.
Yeah, for sure. That's there's definitely a little bit of time. I mean, it seems like most of the big guys don't hit their prime. Like a lot of like your late model guys don't hit their prime until they're about 35, 40, 45 years old. So,
right.
I definitely feel like we got a little bit of time here, but I'm a pretty like do it right now person. So like I guess.
Well, that just makes it to where you throw the right moves when you need to,
Yeah, that's so. We're
not Lucas Lee style, not that way,
Wherever all that. That's
me too. I'm kidding. It's a joke.
But yeah. But we so we're gonna try to make the best of it, and hopefully next year's good.
Well, I hope that people got to learn where you are and who you are. Like I said, I was expecting this to maybe go the other way, because I am against the rich kids who just, and like I said, maybe I'm accustomed to being from the sprint car world, the rich kids who jump out the car and get on the cell phone while a crew comes out and takes care of the car for them. And I just can't respect that. I don't know if you can or not. Sure. I can't.
No, I'm not a big fan of that, but I'll keep my opinion to myself on that one.
Well, I mean, you can make fun of sprint car people, right? That's accepted in the late model industry.
Hey, listen, man, some of them guys are some bad dudes. I'm gonna tell you.
But they're so short.
Yeah, I don't know. They can wheel some cars. That's for sure.
So you're saying you and Rico could do a vehicle swap one day for some content in Florida?
Oh boy, I don't know about all that, but
You may have to change
no,
seats
I'll
out.
tell you,
You may have to change seats out. I don't know if you can fit in a seat or vice versa.
yeah, they. I don't know. I got a lot of respect for them guys, man. They can definitely wheel a race car. That's for sure.
Okay. I thought you would go after him. It's been popular. It's
Yeah,
been popular.
No.
No, I'm just kidding. But all right. I mean, I guess I could get you out of here before we get you in trouble. I mean, I'm assuming that's what you need. You need to get out of here. Bombs could drop.
Oh, you're good. I'm still on the way home, but I am about to lose service, so I got just a couple minutes here before I'm out of service. I'm just about to my house, and I live in the middle of nowhere. We don't even have cell phone service where we live.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want to keep you too long. Hopefully you enjoyed coming on. I mean, I try to be halfway entertaining. A lot of people see me as a shit talker. I make some good music videos. I think you were at the Bristol Bristol race when I made that one song and that intro.
Oh, yeah, I was there. Yeah, no, listen, hey, I was pumped whenever you messaged me because, honestly, me and my dad, we used to watch your videos all the time. So I've always, since I've started, pretty well known who you were. So, no, I was really excited to come on and had a good time. It was definitely a fun hour here. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was pretty fun to do that music video. Everybody seems to think it was pretty funny, the old rap song. And then I feel like it did the intros pretty good. I just feel like, dirt racing is worth being hyped up about. I think it's the most dirt late models is, in my opinion, the most competitive form of motorsports in the world. There's not another sport out there that pays well enough and is affordable in the pay gap. Because when I say like affordable, like $30 million to go be a F1 driver, $15 million to go be a cup racer, not even that to be a late model driver. There's a lot of people in it. And I feel like there's a strong case to say if you're a super late model champion or winner, that you're one of the best damn drivers in the world. And I like to represent it as such. So when I make these hit pieces or hype videos or music videos, it's basically just based on that belief. I don't think I can literally say word for word or give any stats that could defend that.
Absolutely. That's I agree with you. I think you look at just about any other form of motorsport, your F1 guys, your NASCAR drivers that dominate, where I feel like this year is probably a little more dominant than other from like Ricky and Bobby, but we still have a lot of other drivers that are capable of winning, and they're always right there. So I think we're definitely I think as far as competition-wise, this form of late model racing is really healthy right now. It'd be nice to get some costs under control, but that's not going to happen realistically. So if we want to keep doing it, we got to suck it up and deal with it, and just put our heads down and get to work and try to come up with some money elsewhere.
Right. Well, and that's where the streaming and the views and the fans kind of supplement that. I mean, we all hear about how the pay's out of whack, but you could be a NASCAR team spending $15 to $30 million a year and only racing for $400,000 to win. That's a little bit more out of whack to me. But
absolutely.
Anyways, I guess we'll get you out of here. Is there any sponsors or people that are important? I know you said you lost your dad. I'm assuming there had to be a guy step in and be a mentor or some aspect since then. Who are some people that's been with you through the thick and thins of your career that you want to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Oh man, just of course all my family for everything, of course, and my hard work always at the shop, Hunter and Caden and Mason and Ian and Easton and Justin and Jake and Jared, just everyone who stops in and gives us a hand down there at the shop, and all my sponsors. They're really the only reason that I get to race as much as I do, and really the only reason I get to race at all. So Wheeler Fleet Solution, RFI Resources, Shoes Diesel Performance, Schaefer Construction, Fuel Service by Glassmere, Smith Warehouse, Stone Natural Resources, Thunderhill Trucking, Rice Tire, Coors Notary, Slicker Graphics, Longhorn Chassis, J. Dickens Race Engines, and Bilstein Shocks for everything that they do. Jerry Siding and Roofing, ABC Supply, and Certainteed, and just all of our awesome sponsors, man, for letting me live my dream.
All right. Well, I guess we'll let you get out of here, and I guess I ain't going to Chili Bowl. I might go down to Vado. In fact, I might text Boom Briggs to roll a backup car out so I could send you into the wall. I might do that. People have been begging for me to race.
That'll work.
I mean, either I'll put a door on you, or I'll make sure you ain't got to worry about that 6 car. I'll make sure you ain't got to worry about the 6 car.
That'll work.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for calling.
Man, yep, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man. Good job on the win.
Yeah, thanks. See you guys.
Well, and there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Drake Troutman. Now, let's break down this name. Drake. Obviously, we just talked about rapping. Drake. Okay. This is how we break this down. Drake, the rapper. Obviously, me. Trout. Man. They say I'm always out here just fishing for some shit. I got a big mouth flap, a large mouth, or a trout, because I be running down the river, down to the river. Jesus Christ, my name. Oh, God. Anyways, I'm just kidding, ladies and gentlemen. But that was Drake Troutman. Hopefully you enjoyed it. A lot of things to learn. I saw a lot of comments. We'll go through the comments real quick. Maybe we'll catch us a super chat instead of a Troutman. What about that? You're not going to comment back? Oh, somebody's all upset. I don't know what's going on. Darren Shank says, Chaz saying there is more Kyle Larsons out there that just haven't been noticed. That's like saying if the dog wouldn't have stopped it to shit, he'd had caught the rabbit. Ignorance is bliss. See, Matt Feedman knows better. Chaz is the man. Tell it like it is. Watch Dirt on Flow. They explain how Larson got where he is. No, they didn't. They told the approved story. They didn't go into details on who he actually talked to, what guy pulled him in the back room, how much it was, who funded, how much was that, how much did that cost? Oh, do you not know? Okay, well, let's go research. Oh, a 2000 and so ARCA ride that you drove. Oh, that cost $700,000. So how much did that cost? Oh, somebody paid for it. This truck opportunity with Toyota before Chevy stole you. How much was that one? Okay, $5 million Abreu Vineyard loan. Oh, how did you pay that back? Okay, I'm not even saying that's true. I'm just saying there's a lot that you people and those people are not going to tell you about, and that's probably why Larson won't come on here, because we're going to talk about the real stuff that's just too real for him to admit, because I've heard and got to somewhat experience the personal ego of Kyle Larson is very big. And I mean, I get it. If I'm the baddest son of a bitch and the world's telling me everything, and every time I turn a corner, people are kissing my ass and licking my ball sack, I'd be cocky too. But I'm just saying, there's a story that isn't told on Flow Approved or FS1, and all these people who are circle-jerkling the greatest of all time notion, we're coming at it with a different perspective. And people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear about their Messiah not walking on water. I'm simply saying everybody else could do that too. They just didn't have A, B, and C line up. Ricky Thornton Jr. is just as good as Kyle Larson. 100% in my mind. 100%. I mean, there's a bunch of guys who are just as good as Kyle. They just didn't have the opportunity. Kyle Larson is the greatest driver we have ever seen, because we don't get to see everybody display the talents they got. Y'all just act like Porsche just picked them up. Oh, we'll just throw you here. Okay. Y'all want to ignore reality. I don't. And these other drivers out here who still believe in themselves, who aren't psychologically manipulated by the system at hand that tries to tell them that one guy is better than they are, believe that as well. As badass as you think Tom Brady was, Peyton Manning was out there. Drew Brees was too. Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot of good guys out there throwing these race cars around. And you're not going to sit here and tell me just because this guy got X, Y, and Z opportunity that he's better than all these other quarterbacks out here throwing these race cars in the corner. And I think that the best race car drivers, the stiffest competition that Kyle Larson faces is in the super late model division. That's why you don't see him racing it much. They can mark it off as, oh, we're just trying to support our series and make more bank on the back end of everything. But at the end of the day, he's dodging competition. Anytime those super late models ain't ripping around the top on a cushion and you could drive him like a winged sprint car, where's he at? You only hear about him winning in your headlines because you ain't hearing about him running 8th and 10th and 11th and 7th at all these other events that he's at. He gets beat relatively often in the super late model division, and that's because they have the icon sustained. The drivers in their fields ain't been siphoned out to an asphalt career. The drivers in their fields have been trying to be Scott Bloomquist and Billy Moyer for 30 years. They ain't been trying to be Cole Trickle or Jeff Gordon or Tony Stewart or Casey Kane or Kyle Larson or Chris Bell or Ricky Stenhouse. I left his name out the other day. Another good driver, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And they ain't had the late model industry hasn't had to depend on NASCAR welfare to be sustained. And need I remind you, what is it, about 6-7 years ago? If you remove Casey Kane Racing, Tony Stewart Racing, Kyle Larson Racing, and Ricky Stenhouse's supported Stenhouse Marshall team, how many full-time World of Outlaws sprint cars would have even been on the damn track? Because the sport has had to live on NASCAR welfare due to removing the icon of the sport, and all of the money went to supporting that icon's career path instead of supporting the sport itself. And now your Coach Trickle is taking the whole sport over with his brother-in-law. Tried to warn Johnny Gibson about this in 2016. Okay. So just because we disagree means ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is not bliss. The problem is that you're supporting a notion that has no facts. I can factually say that all these other drivers have not been given the same opportunities as Kyle Larson because I can factually prove that. You're trying to tell me something that's not provable. You're trying to tell me that one guy's better than everybody else, but everybody else hasn't even got to try what he's doing. It's insane to hear this. It's insane, but it is motor sports. Motors cost money, and if you have more money, you can advance higher in this sport. I just simply care about who can throw the fucking football. I'm not paying attention to that side of the industry. And I'm judging people based on merit, not manipulated idolization. Okay. How many Corey Days are out there? There's plenty of Corey Days. There's probably better sprint car drivers that are 30, 32, 35 years old and 305 sprint cars than the best drivers we have in our industry. That isn't the case in late models, however, because their system isn't fucked psychologically. We are psychologically fucked in the sprint car world. They're not. They operate correctly. Their stars are over there. Their money goes over there. Their car owners are over there. Their fans are over there because they're not, like I said, manipulated in idolization. At the end of the day, life isn't fair. Well, and at the end of the day, we can be fair. The only thing that can be fair is how we are and how we treat one another. And I don't care what your TV tells you. I'm telling you what I see and what I believe is fair. Representation is more important sometimes. And I believe that representation is worth being fair about now, isn't it? Just because one person drives a Lamborghini and another person drives a Toyota Camry doesn't mean I judge them any differently. Although society has an issue in not only idolization, but materialism. And that's what bases their idolization on. So while you sit over here and talk all this, I'm just going to laugh while you go and watch Andrew Tate videos. While you're all caught up in the materialism and idolization. It's so easy to break y'all down sometimes. Oh man. Anyway, I don't want to ruin the interview with this not necessarily rhetoric, but factual basis. If y'all want to rile it up, we can keep it riling. I am the best, and one day I will show you all. I don't know. I think a lot of people are great. I just don't put one person over everyone else. That's all. opinions are like Dale Earnhardt Sr. said it years ago. There's thousands of racers out there. Just ask, or just as good as him. He just got lucky and got a shot. I don't know why y'all don't agree, or y'all will agree with Dale Earnhardt Sr. Rest in peace, but you won't agree with me. Although Dale Earnhardt could be on the island with Kobe Bryant and Prince. Just saying. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully y'all enjoyed tuning into the show. That was Drake Troutman. Very interesting story. If you just got here late, we're going to end the video here soon, and you can go back and watch everything that was said and done. And it's an interesting career. A bunch of people think just young racers, just hand me this, hand me that, get out the car and get on the cell phone. That's a sprint car issue. Go listen to this guy's story. It's very interesting. Very, very interesting how it operates properly with young race car drivers in a dirt racing division. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, go check him out. I'm sure if you search Drake Troutman Racing on Facebook, it's over there. Check out his stores. I'm sure he's got a merchandise store. If he don't, I can help him out. And as always, like the video, comment below, membership button down there, Venmo, PayPal links in the description also. And as always, be sure to subscribe. We will catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen.
We can ride high, we can ride low, we can ride anywhere we need to go. We can ride all night up to the morning, as long as we make the show. We can be the best, or we can